Hi, I'm Charles Cooper, and I've been struggling with my self-confidence from an early age. This is my journey towards finding my voice and proving my capabilities to my company's CEO. It's also a lesson in how revenge is a dish best served cold. I was able to deal with my old college bully, Marcus Thompson, butting into my workplace. It was all due to his own arrogance. By showing him up, I managed to prove to myself that I wasn't as small and insignificant as he made me out to be. But I'm rambling. Let me start at the beginning. I grew up poor and was raised by a single mother. Mom was always trying her best for me, but she had trouble with addiction and we never stayed in one place too long. When I was 7 years old, Mom was put into rehab and I went to live with my aunt and uncle, Tom and Betty, in Appalachia. They gave me the stability that I had craved since my early childhood and also fostered a love of language in me. I became obsessed with reading and learning new things about cultures all across the world. My dream was to be a writer or to work with people from all across the world. Looking back, it's kind of funny to me that words and communicating ideas with others became my passion. The reason was that I had a terrible speech impediment. Those two things don't really gel well, huh? I had a stuttering problem from a very early age. Of course, because of my mom's tumultuous life, it was never really treated, and stuttering became ingrained in my way of talking. Although my aunt and uncle tried to fix it with speech therapy, it became a long, uphill battle for me. It was more a psychological issue as opposed to anything else, but I didn't know that at the time. I used to believe, all throughout my childhood and my teen years, that there was something wrong with me. Despite my lack of self-confidence, I loved to express myself. With the loving environment of my aunt and uncle, I also found myself to be academically gifted. I know people think that everyone from Appalachia is an uneducated redneck, but my aunt and uncle are living contradictions to this stereotype. Tom used to discuss Dostoevsky and Walt Whitman with me, while Aunt Betty would introduce me to philosophical problems and have spirited conversations with me and her husband. It was a lovely dynamic to grow up in and gave me the confidence to apply for college. My whole family background is pretty rough and tumble, and to the best of my knowledge, I'm the first person in the family who was even thinking about going to college. I gave my all for the SATs and scored almost a perfect 1,600. From then on, I had my pick of colleges to choose from. While my aunt and uncle wanted me to pick a college close to home, something like the University of Tennessee. I, on the other hand, wanted to explore other parts of the country. Although I didn't want to settle for a subpar college, I also didn't want to burden my aunt and uncle. Mom had been out of the picture for more than a decade by the time I was 18, and she didn't send any money to help with my education or living expenses. Tom and Betty were taking care of me out of the goodness of their heart. Eventually, I decided to take a need-based scholarship from FSU that would ease the burden on my aunt and uncle while giving me a chance to explore a new part of the United States. Before starting college, I was daydreaming about all the adventures I would have and the people I would meet. The reality, however, was much worse than I envisioned. I had a hard time making friends amongst my peers. I was always really into research and writing, and my professors took a shine to me. I didn't want to be portrayed as the teacher's pet, but it just sort of happened. People shied away from me because they thought that I was a boring guy who wasn't interested in having fun. I suppose they were right because I usually went to work a part-time job after college. I rarely had time for parties. As I said, I was painfully aware of the fact that I was the first person in my family to go to college, and I didn't want to be a burden on Uncle Tom and Aunt Betty. Eventually, I did get used to it. I made a few close friends and decided that life under the radar wasn't all that bad. I guess people still thought I was uncool, but I didn't really feel the need to socialize after a point. I had my own circle, and that was enough. Things went well until my sophomore year. I had worked hard and been selected for a fellowship at FSU. This allowed me to travel outside the United States for the first time in my life, and I suddenly became known throughout the college. With all this fame also came jealousy. Marcus Thompson, a relatively average student who shared a few classes with me, suddenly started picking on me. I was aware that he had also submitted his name for the same fellowship as me, but it was clear as day to anyone that he wouldn't get it. For some reason, though, Marcus correlated my success with his failure. As he began to spend more time victimizing himself and interacting with me in mutual circles, I got to know his true personality. He was mean, overbearing, and self-absorbed. The kind of guy who believed that everything he did deserved a gold medal, no matter what. What fed into Marcus' ego even more was the fact that he came from a family of academics. He would always boast about the fact that his dad was a researcher and his mom was a college professor. Personally, I don't see how your parents' success is linked to your potential, but I guess others didn't see it that way. I wasn't one to complain about Marcus or even engage with him, but that turned out to be in his favor. Marcus managed to convince a lot of people that I was selected for the fellowship out of pity and not because I deserved it. Along with that, every time we met, he would make fun of my accent and the way I spoke. I hadn't been picked on for my stutter or my Appalachian accent before he started the whole thing. I mean, it wasn't high school anymore. If it wasn't the way I spoke, Marcus would look down on me for not being cultured enough. Sure, sometimes I didn't get references that people from bigger cities all seemed to know, but it didn't hinder my work at all. I wasn't less of a person just because of that, was I? I lost a lot of my friends and began to suffer from mental issues due to all the bullying I was facing. Although Marcus was the one who started it, the whole matter escalated through rumors. Eventually, I had to skip 2 semesters due to the bullying affecting my work and academic output. I just couldn't keep up with all the relentless jibes and comments. People I was close to turned their backs on me. I truly felt alone, all thanks to one bully who was insecure about getting worse grades than me. I went back to my aunt and uncle and began to work on my own small copywriting business. It was a distraction from the war zone that was college. Time away from college helped me recharge and forget about Marcus. I began to have serious doubts about whether I would even return to FSU and finish my degree. But all that changed when I met Zoe. She was hiking on one of my favorite weekend trails when I came across her. Zoe was from Quebec, in Canada, and had been hitchhiking through the United States. She was, just like me, taking a drop from college. I was chancy about my chances with such a beautiful, bubbly girl, but I asked her out on a date. It was a shot in the dark, but she said yes, and we went on a few dates. I'm no believer in true love, but the conversations we had made me feel like I was made to be with Zoe. After a week in my hometown, she was going to make her way to the West Coast. I didn't know what to do. Should I stay and continue to work on my, by that time, quite profitable business, or follow the girl of my dreams? Eventually, I decided to take the risk and shut my business down. I used the proceeds to travel with Zoe across the United States, one of the best periods of my life. After a while, we both realized that we wanted to be together and decided to get engaged. At the same time, the two of us also decided that we wanted to finish our respective degrees. So Zoe went back to Canada and I returned to FSU to finish college. Since Marcus was long gone, I was finally at peace in college. I finished my degree with flying colors. After graduating, I began to work in a large company that helps MNCs acclimatize across various geographies. Imagine this: you're an American company that wants to open an office in China. We ensure HR operations and compatibility with local values are established with employees to prevent a cultural mismatch. It's a pretty novel concept, and we only serve a small batch of companies. I started working as a research associate, where I mostly ensured interactions between the culture of the host company and the new office could be done well. I really enjoyed the work and speaking to people from all around the world. Zoe moved to the United States to live with me. We tied the knot in an intimate ceremony and settled in Vermont. My role was remote, and I never had to worry about showing up for a 9-to-5. My wife started an online crafts business, and our life together had gotten off to a great start. However, all good things come to an end. When I was 25, I was asked to attend a town hall meeting in Syracuse, where I met our company's CEO, Terrence Smith. Terrence was a stand-up guy who was really passionate about his work. We got on well, and I suppose I had impressed him because after I got back to Vermont, I got an email regarding a promotion. Terrence had spoken to me about leading a team, and I was pretty excited to move up to a leadership position. However, there was one catch: we would have to move to Syracuse. I spoke to Zoe about the idea, and she was supportive of the idea of picking up our roots. Even though we enjoyed the beauty and peace of Vermont, neither of us had any special connection to the place. With that, Zoe and I settled into a big new city, and I went in for my first day on the job. With a job of my own and the freedom to work on my speech impediment, I worked with a speech therapist. I had reduced my stuttering in English by quite a fair bit. Leading a group of people was difficult at first, but I soon got the hang of it. My main focus was on ensuring there was no hierarchy between me and the associates who worked under me. In just 6 months, I had doubled productivity in my departments, and our clients were reporting that their foreign offices were easier to set up than ever before. I had been keeping a casual rapport with the CEO, and he decided that I was going to be able to handle more responsibility. Because of that, I was moved to a special department of managers who all had different areas of expertise. While I would continue working with my own team, I also had the extra role of collaborating with other people at my level and bagging new clients through pitches. I was making more money and still felt happy and satisfied with my job. Compared to my friends, who were stuck in the rat race, it felt like I had hit the jackpot. I honestly can't complain about a single thing at work until last year. A few months after my 26th birthday, I was given the worst belated birthday gift ever, Marcus Thompson. There were rumors within our department of managers that a new head was going to be assigned to the team to provide more structure to the whole operation. This guy was apparently some big shot who had worked in sales at Meta and Google and thought very highly of himself and his capabilities. In fact, he had gotten the job by telling our CEO that he would double our client base in 1 year. Confidence or overconfidence? We soon found out. The day I showed up for the first meet and greet with our new boss, I knew something wasn't right. Something just wasn't sitting well with me. This was confirmed the moment I saw who was clambering up onto the stage, eager to speak about himself for an hour. I couldn't forget that platinum blonde hair, piggish eyes, and horrible sneer. Marcus was going to be my new boss. After he wrapped up his introduction, Marcus went around and spoke to all the managers. He was constantly talking over other people and mentioning his own achievements over and over. You could smell his insecurity from a mile away, sheesh. When he came to me, I was just hoping he didn't recognize me. "Hi, nice to meet you, I'm Marcus. I have 6 years of experience in sales and do I know you from somewhere?" I'm not sure. Surely it doesn't matter? No, I'm certain we've met before. What's your name? I'm Charles. Charles Cooper? From FSU? No way. Yep, that's me. The moment Marcus knew my real identity, his face soured. I don't know why he still had a gripe with me, but I guess it was because I knew who he really was. Although I wasn't the kind of guy to go about gossiping about things that happened in college, I knew for a fact that Marcus would be one to hold on to the past. He would project his own fear of being found out as a bad person onto me. Ironically, this made him into a bad person at the workplace. He was constantly picking on me in departmental meetings, and people were getting sick of him. Unlike college, I had been able to make friends here and nobody liked the way our new boss tried to steamroll every conversation. However, it was too early to ask for a change in the hierarchy. We could tell, though, that Marcus didn't know the first thing about our industry. Even though he was a smooth talker who might have convinced Terrence to take him in, he couldn't even explain to a 5-year-old what we really did at our company. So, the next few months at work were hell. Being under an incompetent boss who thought he was God's gift to man was exhausting. Something else that we had to consider was the possibility of bagging one of the largest deals in company history. A subsidiary of Carrefour, a French company, was interested in working with us to set up new offices across a PAC. However, the company was notoriously difficult to impress, and we were working overtime to try and figure out the best strategy for them. Even our liaison, a guy named Emile Barbier, wasn't biting on any of our strategies. After a few failed attempts at winning the client over, we were given a make-or-break pitch, failing which the company would lose any chance of a partnership. I was brought on to work with this final chance due to my good performance on other projects. Despite the daunting task, I was confident in my abilities. During all this, Marcus used to watch us poring over research and speaking to people on the ground while sipping coffee and randomly speaking of corporate buzzwords. I knew that bagging this client would happen despite my nitwit boss, not because of him. During the research phase, Marcus and I came to loggerheads a lot more often than before. I was no longer the timid, non-confrontational guy from college, and this took him by surprise. Even though he would constantly try to poke holes in the research my team did, or look down on my ideas for bagging the client, I always stood my ground. This all came to a head when Marcus resorted to the kind of underhanded tactics he used to pull back in college. He started talking trash about my family and my background. "Charles, I don't mean to be snarky, but have you finished research for the Carrefour client?" "Yep, it was on your desk last week. Did you forget to check?" No, I got it. I must say, your work gets finished earlier than your sentences. That's a low blow. I don't have to take this crap from you. I'm just as capable as the rest of you." "Oh, is that so? Well, Charles, how would you like to be the one leading our first meeting with the French company reps? I don't think it should be an issue for you, right?" "I'll do it. I have no issue with it. Oh, by the way, Terrence expects the presentation to be delivered in French. Will you be able to do it?" I know you had a pretty rough childhood. I don't think they teach French in trailer parks, right? Oh, absolutely, it won't be a problem for me. Oh, really? All right. The meeting is next week. I'll make sure the floor is yours, Charles. The conversation was very loud and everyone on our team knew what was happening. However, I didn't back down. I was going to deliver the pitch, not Marcus. A few of my colleagues asked me to reconsider and back down, and I politely declined. I get where they were coming from. In their eyes, I was going to do nothing more than make a fool of myself. But here's where I'm going to let why all on something Marcus didn't know at the time. I was actually fluent in French. Zoe was from a Quebecois family, and I had learned Canadian French in order to make a good impression on my in-laws. After having learned the language for over 5 years, I had a pretty good grasp on the language. I also visited the country twice with Zoe, where we stayed with her relatives. All these things helped me get pretty immersed in the culture. I was always curious and asked a lot of questions about French values and the things that differed in our daily lives. So, I didn't just speak the language, I had a keen understanding of what it meant to be French. Interestingly, I also stuttered much less while speaking French. My speech therapist said that my impediment was mostly psychological and there was less of a baggage associated with the new language. Also, as anyone who has tried to learn French knows, the language and pronunciation are vastly different from English. So by learning on a clean slate, I never really stuttered or faced too many problems with my wife's native tongue. In fact, I was pretty suave when I switched to French. Nobody in my company knew about this, although they were aware that I had a close connection to France due to my wife. With Marcus' task, I had a chance to show him up by using my hidden skill with French at work. When the day of the meeting arrived, our whole team was nervous. Emile had come alone, all the way from Paris, and he was walking around our office with a haughty air. When Marcus tried to talk to him and hype up the pitch, he was met with nothing but an ice-cold stare. Sure, Marcus might have had a good career in tech companies, but what he didn't realize was that we didn't work with products, we worked with people. He moved away from Emile and asked me to speak with him. As I walked over to our client, Marcus whispered in my ear, "Good luck with this one, you hick." "Oh, don't worry about me. I got this." As soon as I made my way over to Emile, I burst into fluent French. We had some time to kill until the meeting room was set up, so I began to talk about a soccer, or as most Europeans prefer, football game between PSG and Lyon. I had done a little background research on Emile Barbier, and I knew about his hobbies and interests. Sure enough, our finicky French client's face lit up in a smile, and he began to converse rapidly with me. I could see Marcus looking at me out of the corner of my eye. He was gawking, straight up gawking. Well, he wasn't the only person. Everyone there seemed amazed by the conversation the two of us were having. After a while, I noticed that our company's CEO, Terrence, had also decided to come and join us. Although he wasn't usually around for client presentations, Terrence wanted to make sure that we did our best to convert Emile's company over to our side. When he saw me speaking in French, I could tell that he was impressed. "Emile, welcome to the States. I hope Marcus has been showing you around the office, although I see that you're having quite a spirited conversation with Charles. Oui, your colleague here is quite up to date with European football. It was nice to see that your team isn't just trying to work with us, but they really know what it's like in France. Oh, come on, just from soccer? I'm sure you'll be a lot more impressed by the work my team has done for this pitch. I'm the head of the department, you know, and I know exactly how to make this new geography work for your company." "Oh, is that so? But wasn't Charles here going to lead the presentation? What kind of boss does that?" Caught in all his blustering, and ironically facing the consequences of the trap that he had set for me, Marcus had no way to respond. He definitely couldn't say, well, it was because I thought my team member was uncultured and didn't know how to speak your language. My old college bully and new workplace bully looked smaller than ever. He slinked back into the mass of other employees there and let me lead the project. We were in the boardroom for almost 3 hours, discussing every single phase of our plans. Emile asked us questions that nobody could have been prepared for. Nobody, except my research team. It wasn't just me chipping in with answers, but also the people who worked with me. I was, in informal terms, the real leader of the project. Marcus was just a figurehead, and it showed in that meeting. I was able to bridge any communication gaps that were there between Emile and my team, and I could see that Terrence was impressed. By the time our pitch was over, the cold French guy who had walked into our office was now laughing and joking with us. The deal was in the bag. Terrence brought me aside as the office day wound down, and he let me in on the magnitude of what we had accomplished. "You killed it today. I just got a call from the head office in France." Apparently, Emile couldn't even wait to get back to Paris before calling them. He was extremely pleased with the pitch and thinks that we've finally cooked up the right strategy for them. "Oh, that's great. This is going to be big for us." "Big? No, much more than big. Honestly, this is going to mean big things for the company. We're going to rake in $100 million with this deal alone, and they want to work with us for future projects too. In a few months, if we play our cards right, other European companies may want to work with us too. Honestly, none of this could have happened without you." "Oh no, you're being too kind." "Not at all. And, well, I needed to talk to you about something. Someone, actually. Marcus, your new boss, how is he?" This is the first time you've asked me about him. I don't want to be rude, but I'll be honest, he isn't the right fit for our team. During our research and pitch preparation, the guy added nothing useful to our discussions." "I see. I'll be honest too. You're not the first guy who's come to me complaining about Marcus. In fact, a lot of people were writing to me detailing how he would try and comment on your background during meetings. It's like he has some personal vendetta against you. I'm surprised you were able to keep your cool for so long, honestly." "Yeah, he used to know me in college. I guess he's had it out for me since then, which is a little pathetic when you think about it." "No wonder. He used to speak to me during weekly catch-up calls and constantly paint you in a bad light. Marcus told me you were lazy, overbearing, and didn't know how to lead a team." "What? I didn't know that." "Yeah, but I brushed him off. I know you as a person, and I didn't think any of it was true. After watching the pitch today, I think Marcus was probably just projecting. He describes you the way I would describe him. I don't think he's going to have a job come next week. I'll speak to him." Sure enough, Marcus was nowhere to be seen after work resumed. I heard from a colleague that he threw a massive fit about being fired and was escorted out by security. This happened while I was on site in Paris with Emile, something that Marcus was initially slated to do. However, after the pitch, the client wanted me to take point with everything related to implementing the project. Unfortunately, Marcus didn't like this one bit. He had only given me the reins to see me fail, and it just didn't sit right with him when I leapfrogged him and actually succeeded. He spoke to Terrence about it, but our CEO had enough of his BS. There was apparently a verbal altercation. I heard Marcus' behavior was so vile that he's not going to get any severance pay and has been blacklisted by our company. His conduct is definitely not going to help him find a new job. From what I know, he's trying to sue the company for unlawful termination, but the case doesn't have a leg to stand on. Apart from that, a lot of people within the team also approached me and told me that Marcus was absolutely hating on me behind my back. Although most of them wanted to approach me earlier, they were worried that our ex-boss would mess with them if they didn't hear all his abuse quietly. I don't really know how to feel about this, but I guess that my college bully never grew out of the bully phase. It wasn't me he was after. He wanted the whole department to be wrapped around his little finger. But I guess he finally met his match in me, since I was older and more mature than at FSU. Honestly, I find it a little funny that, after all that, and being faced with getting fired, his ego just couldn't handle it. As for me, I've been promoted to the same position as Marcus, and I work directly with the French clients as we pave the way for an even bigger partnership. If things go well, I could even enter the C-suite in 5 years. Terrence has been really close with me ever since the pitch, and I know that there's always going to be a place for me in this company. The team also functions 100 times better with me at the helm, and Marcus gone. I was speaking to Zoe about the whole escapade, and we were thinking about how things have changed. I had to leave college because of the bullying. Now Marcus had to leave our company because he was still a bully. When I first saw his face and realized that my old college bully was going to be my boss, I didn't feel any nervousness about it. Sure, I felt surprised, but I feel like Marcus brought all the bad blood onto himself. Although he picked on me, the other people in the office weren't going to put up with it. The company wasn't an FSU dorm.